Traveling over 1,000 miles this week, rhythm, time, and first-time experiences. We're going to talk about all this and more in this week's episode of the Small Town Pastor Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This is Ben Beckman. Thank you so much for listening and joining me on this journey. Well, hello. Yes, welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. Appreciate you listening, taking time out of your day to hear a little bit about mine. So we got some interesting things to talk about this week, some fun things that have happened, some first-time things. We're going to talk about all that and probably a couple others. So, yeah. So this week, a little bit more back and forth, as you guys know. Splitting my time a little bit between my new job here at Ray Nazarene, pastoring this church here, getting to know the people. But my family's still back in Monte Vista and doing a little bit of back and forth, trying to maintain those important connections. And so yeah, 1,000 miles this week. A little bit of back and forth, as I said. Valentine's dinner was this week, and so our old church had a dinner set up, and so it was fun to take my wife to that and connect with people that have been praying for me and encouraging me over the last few weeks in this new transition for me, and being able to kind of give them an update, and that was a good time together. So it's been the first time I've been able to reconnect with many of them here in the last several weeks. So that was fun and enjoyed doing that and hearing a little bit about things that have been happening with them. Also, one of my students in my old youth group, it was his birthday, and his mom wanted to kind of throw a surprise birthday party. So I was able to join him for that. So that was a good time just to reconnect. We had a lot of laughs, and yeah, it's just those connections are so important. And this season of transition, it's all the more important, I'm realizing, to maintain those relationships and continue to know what's happening in people's lives. It's easy to be distracted too. It's easy to kind of let those relationships slide a little bit, to allow the distance to creep in. So trying really hard to maintain some of those relationships, and it's not going to be possible with each and every one. But there are definitely those that try really hard to maintain. And so, yeah, 1,000 miles was fast and furious, so to speak. It was over, a few days. So that got me thinking about spending time, how we do that. And so those 1,000 miles represent a lot of seat time in this car. And I'm curious what you do to redeem time that oftentimes we think is maybe kind of wasted to a certain degree. Obviously that wasn't a waste of time traveling, but this trip that I take, a couple times every week is 6 hours one way. And really been thinking about how to spend that time, and I'm liking podcasts. There's several that I've been listening to and things like that. And that's been one way that I feel like I've redeemed some of that time, where I'm not wasting it. I'm trying to learn something new and grow in lots of areas of my life. So I've listened to several different podcasts on leadership, on different management type approaches, different church leadership podcasts, listen to some different sermons from different people. So I'm curious what you do. What do you do to redeem some of those times when can be kind of wasted or just mindlessly spent? I think of of, you know, times we just kind of sit and listen to music, which is good. But sometimes we just need to better spend our time. So what are some of your strategies? What are some things that you do um, to try and do that? Um, and as I was thinking about that, if people have been asking me how things are going and things like that, and one of the things that I found myself saying pretty often was, I'm struggling with this, trying to find a rhythm, or trying to find, um, my schedule's pretty crazy, or has been, and so trying to find some time that I can devote to make sure that I'm preparing well for a Sunday morning sermon. I feel like that's been one of the areas I've struggled with the most, and so I found myself saying that I'm looking for this rhythm to my week, where I can have something every week that I have time set aside, that I spend wisely, and and just really got to thinking about that, as on one of these trips back, and um, I'll be honest, time management has not been one of my strong suits. I'm a well practiced procrastinator. I love this quote by Sam Levinson. He says, "I'm going to stop putting things off starting tomorrow." And I find myself actually saying that with good intentions. Even last night, as I was going to bed and kind of thinking about my day and what's planned for today, um, that I have this whole list of things that I need to get done, things that I've been putting off for a while, and I found myself saying pretty much this: I'm going to stop putting things off starting tomorrow. And then, as the other saying goes, tomorrow never comes, or, something along those lines. But um, yeah, so this time management area of my life was really, as I was thinking about that and praying about that, I really felt kind of convicted in the ways that I spend my time. And I remember a message or a sermon given by Eric Samuel Tim, talking about how we look at time, and we shouldn't look at spending time as much as we should look at investing our time, and the things that we put effort in how we invest our time. And so I'm trying to change my mindset about that. Instead of spending time, how I'm investing time. If I'm looking at it in that type of context, then the things that I put effort to, I should expect some kind of return. So if I'm investing in people, there's an investment or a return on that investment. Um, if I'm investing in time in studying God's word, time in prayer, those type of things, there's a return on that. Um, so I'm really trying to change that perspective on how I'm investing my time. Instead of spending it, we will spend money in different things and not think about it a whole lot. And I believe that that's how I've um, managed my time, as I've spent my time, and then I find myself reacting to situations that demand attention. I'm not proactively planning. I'm not thinking about ahead of time how to manage these situations that I know are going to come up, these things that I know that are due. Um, and so this turns into just procrastination. So be curious to hear from you guys. What are your tips and tricks on how you manage your time and on how you invest time? Do you have some helpful tips for me to move past this procrastination way of spending time to more of an intentional investment of time spent with others? So, yeah, like to hear from you. Um, as the name of my podcast, Small Town Pastor Podcast, there are things that happen that are maybe unique to small town ministry, opportunities that come up that might not be in all areas or in all ways of your ministry context. Um, So in thinking about that, I had some firsts this week and over the last couple of weeks actually, and thought I'd share a few of those with you. Um, so my first Sunday of the month, or the first Sunday of the month here at this church, we do communion, and I've done communion before, and I had it in my mind how we were going to do that. And so traditionally, we have these pre-filled cups and the little wafers, and we have people come forward and grab a cup and a wafer and sit back down, and then we partake in communion together. Um, so I had that in my mind as how we were going to be practicing First Communion here together. First time leading here at this church in that, and um, and I see as I get there, it's a lot of it's been set up already, and they are doing the cup and the matzah bread. So they're doing an intinction style, which if you're not familiar with that, is you break off a piece of bread and you dip it, and then take communion. Well, I had, like I said, in my mind how I was going to do this, and this different style, which I'd never led before, and had to rethink how I was going to do that. So that's always fun on a Sunday morning to have to, and I don't want this to come across wrong, but just kind of scramble, at least in my own mind, how I was going to present communion here at the end of service. And so it turned out fine. I think it was good. And it flowed pretty well, I think, with service. But one of those things that I wasn't prepared for in that way. So yeah, another first. So this week I led or gave a message at the local retirement home. And that was not one that I had done before, which shouldn't sound like that's a big deal. But as I got to thinking about it, I was like, well, what am I going to share? I want it to be encouraging. I wanted it to be, insightful. I wanted it to be something that was beneficial for them. I got to thinking about, different situations that some of the residents are in. Um, you know, just a whole lot of things were kind of going through my mind. And so all of a sudden I was, not panicking, but just really kind of thinking through how is this going to work, and what am I going to say, and how long should I talk, and all of these things. So just really praying and trying to seek what type of message I should give. And a lot of the context of what I shared actually came out of Hebrews chapter 12, which talked about this great cloud of witnesses, this running of the race. And I got to thinking after I gave this short message that, I hope that didn't come across as, insensitive. A lot of people are wheelchair bound and things like that. And even some of those thoughts came across as I'm sharing this. So I tried to kind of address this message in that way that, wasn't just a physical running of the race, but time of how we are to spend our time. And anyway, so again, kind of thinking about it later, was hoping that the intent of what I was trying to say was received well. But lots of firsts, and lots of times afterwards thinking, man, did I just really mess this up? Did I, chalk this up to another learning experience? But I think overall it went okay. And I was sure thankful for the opportunity to do that and meet some more people and connect with another group of people that I don't get to see very often. And so just more of this context of my ministry that I'm discovering that I need to pay attention to. So yeah, I was thankful for that this last week. And I'm apparently on a rotation to do that every so often. So again, thinking about it ahead of time and kind of knowing what to expect is obviously going to help as I do this again. Another first. So tonight I will be leading my first board meeting. And so, yeah, in a new context, a new church, there's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot of things that I don't know how they've been doing things. I've been looking at some preliminary reports of financial things, of people that lead certain parts of church ministry that are, giving their reports. And so as I'm reading through these things, there's a lot of culture that I'm not up on yet. And so I'm excited for our first board meeting. I'm excited to continue to learn more about the culture that I'm serving in. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to just being able to ask questions and learn more about what happens here and why we do the things that we've been doing. So I've got that. Another first that's coming up that I'm actually really excited about is a baby dedication. And I'm thinking through, our denomination has a manual that kind of walks you through what a baby dedication should look like. There's even a script. But I don't want to just read from a script and just present this as how they do, because this is something that's meaningful for parents, for grandparents, for friends, and in this situation, godparents. And so that's a little bit of a new dynamic. And so thinking ahead of that, I'm really excited and looking forward to doing that. But what are some of your firsts that are real memorable for you in a ministry context that you wish you would have had a little more clue on as you were beginning or starting out? And I know that there's going to be many more firsts for me, but I think this is kind of a fun thing to talk about. Your memorable first times in a ministry context. I remember doing my first baptism, and that was such an amazing experience for me, and just a reward of being a part of their life in that part, and helping them understand what that means, and just a important time of significance in their walk and in their journey with Christ. And I'm looking forward to so many more firsts. Former student of mine is getting married in September, and they asked me to officiate their wedding. And I am just so honored to be a part of that, and I'm excited. And as I think about different parts of it, I'm also nervous, because I don't want to be something that distracts from that time. So yeah, tell me about some of your memorable first times and some things some advice, some tidbits of insight that you can share with me as I know that we'll be experiencing more and more firsts. So share those with me so I can share those with others. And along those lines of being able to share those things and getting back with me and talking, Small Town Pastor Podcast has a Facebook page, an Instagram account, and a Twitter account. So I'd encourage you to search and look for me on those platforms. I'd like to be able to continue these conversations in those areas as well. Share with me maybe some ideas for future episodes. I'd love to start connecting with some of you other pastors and do an interview. Learn about your context, what works for you there, what maybe some frustrations are, some things that you are trying to overcome and ways that you're working to do that. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you would subscribe, that would be great, and give a rating. That helps a lot. And I just want this to be something that's beneficial for you. I know it's beneficial for me. I look forward to this every Monday. It's what I'm trying to do, is once a week on a Monday, share with you things through my week, experiences I've had. Tried to do this regular. So yeah, if you'd connect with me on those platforms, I would appreciate it. Follow, like, and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey as I discover what it means to be a small town pastor. Um, I'm learning that God is doing some big and amazing things in really small places. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week.